favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried unanimously. Moving on. Mark, do you have anything to report, staff report?
I do, Mr. Chair. It's the time of the year for a budget season. So we're in the process of preparing the budget for the land use agency. The budgets have pretty much remained the same as last year. Ours are fairly simple budgets. The biggest items are a request for funds for a consultant to primarily, in this case, continue the work that we've started for the revision of the regulations, and requesting money for an intern to assist the department as well. The capital budget is in the process of being developed, and I believe it will have that on the agenda for the next meeting. I'm pleased to report that the regulation subcommittee has met probably 3 times at this point, and seems to have a good sense of meeting and review of the revisions that have been proposed thus far. So we are working diligently on those, and well, we'll continue to work diligent and should have an update by the next, more of an update by the next meeting.
Thank you, Mark. Anything else, Mark?
Sure. I just wanted to say that things are fairly busy in town. There have been a couple of new restaurants that are opening on Main Street. One's called Local 63, which is in the former Rock Garden space. And another is Jameson's, called Jameson's, in the former Red Door space, just to show that there is interest in Main Street, and there are businesses moving in. There's also a couple of existing businesses that will be expanding their presence in Main Street as well. There's been a lot of activity in terms of various developments and proposals on Echo Lake Road. I'll keep you informed of them as they come to fruition. That's all that I have.
Is there any questions for Mark? Any commissioner want to ask any questions for Mark? Any questions? Hearing none, we can move on to the next matter on the agenda, Chairman's report. At this time, I will not do anything. I would like the meeting to move forward quickly and move the agenda forward. The first matter under new business is a matter that deals with a site plan special permit, and it is 2022 of, I guess it is Bella Secas, for a car sales on Falls Avenue, Oakville, in a BC business commercial zone. Mark, would you like to comment on this?
This is an existing auto repair facility that would like to help to broker. It's a high-end facility, and they would like to add a car dealership to their business model. From what I understand, it would just be internal sales, no outside storage of cars. But nonetheless, it is a special permit in that zone. So simply at this point in time, it'd be we request you set a public hearing for the March regular meeting.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to set, therefore, a public hearing for March 2nd, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion seconded. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded for a public hearing, March 2nd, 2022. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Opposed and abstention, hearing none, the motion carried unanimously. Continuing public hearings. The first matter that is on the agenda, number 1, is a proposed text amendment to the Watertown zoning regulations from Attorney Michael McVeary to allow for professional office use by the site plan permits, a special permit, and that it would be in an R20 zone, limited to only properties that are fronting on Connecticut Route 6. The hearing is a continuing hearing. We will now have Attorney McSherry. Go ahead. McVeary, Attorney McVeary, are you there? The applicant there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Again, for the record, my name is Michael McVeary. I'm an attorney with an office at 35 Porter Avenue in Naugatuck, here on behalf of the applicants, Grady and Riley LLP, which is a Waterbury, Connecticut law firm. They're also the contract purchaser of property located at 325 Woodbury Road. We've been before the commission, I think, since October, where we first came in and discussed what we wanted to do. We filed an application, which was accepted at your November meeting, and the public hearing opened on December 1st. What we're seeking to do is to amend section 11.4 residential districts to allow professional offices in areas in the R20 zone fronting on Route 6. Also amending section 12.4 table of permitted uses, which would allow professional offices by special permit site plan in the R20 zone limited to property on Route 6, and then add a new section 12.6.18, which would allow in the R20 district professional offices by special permit and site plan located on Route 6. Now, after the December public hearing, there was a great deal of comment that was held, and we amended our proposal prior to your January meeting to add a provision that these parcels would have to have a minimum area of 2 acres, which, if you look at Mr. Massoud's initial report, he indicated there were about 26 parcels that fit this, our proposal. If we take the 2 acre minimum, we're reducing it down to, I believe, 7 addresses, 3 of which are owned by Taft, another of which is owned by the Watertown Fire District. So essentially, we've reduced the potential numbers from 26 down to 7 as a basis for that. If you look at the table of permitted uses, if the initial use would be, there are 19 permitted uses are by special permit. What we're seeking to add is only 1 more to this, so making that 20. If you look at the list on 12.4, a lot of what's allowed already, a lot more intensive than what is being proposed. A child daycare center or group daycare home, a convalarium, convalescent home, private hospital or sanitarium, a summer day camp, a public utility building use or facility, buildings used by the state or municipality, railroad right-of-way or passenger station, a bed and breakfast. What we're looking at is to add a professional office. Now, my client is obviously a law firm, and their interest is to move their office to the subject property. However, but again, not wanting to get into site-specific applications. This is a general application of texting that would apply to the specific properties within the district. When we first came in November, we talked about the impact or the compliance with the Plan of Conservation and Development. And I'd like to just go over that. Objective 3.2 on pages 4 to 8 stress the promotion of commercial development in areas with supporting transportation and utility infrastructure. Quoting it, the town should promote business growth in areas that are served by sanitary, sewer, and water infrastructure. Objective 3.1 states that the most important goal of economic development is growing Watertown's grand list. Growth in non-residential development can help diversify the tax base and reduce the reliance on single-family households. In addition, the growth and diversification of a local tax base will provide the town with financial resources needed to implement many of the recommendations of the Plan of Conservation and Development. Objective 3.4 recommends that zoning regulations and development be evaluated to determine if districts' uses, setbacks, definitions, parking requirements, and others are appropriate. Should also determine what impact particular regulations may have on economic development. Route 6 in this area is shown as a principal arterial road, which according to the Plan of Conservation and Development in 2015 averages 9,200 vehicles per day. Now I'm sure that is 6 years old, so I would be certain that traffic count has increased dramatically since that time, as we've seen everything that's happened. Again, we've gone over this ad nauseum for the last meeting. We started last month. It's a use that's going to apply to all the properties, the appropriate properties within the district. We would have to come back in for a special permit site plan approval, which would address the development of this particular piece of property, which would also give the commission additional input as far as what we plan on doing and what could be done. I don't know if you have any questions that I might be able to answer, or possibly, I'm not sure if any of my clients are available at the meeting tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant from members of the commission? Are there any questions from members of the commission at this time for the applicant? Hearing none, I can move on to the public. Are there any questions from the public at this time? Any questions from
I have one so far. I'm going to allow them to talk.
Please do. Please state your name and address.
My name is, excuse me, my name is Tom Riley. I'm a partner in the law firm of Grady and Riley. My address is 193 Euclid Avenue in Waterbury.
Thank you.
Mr. Commissioner, yeah, you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'll keep my remarks very brief because I know you want to move this along. I just wanted to address two items. The first was questions raised at the initial hearing as to whether or not we would be good neighbors. And I want to emphatically say yes. And I want to bring something personal into this. I have spent my entire life living or working in an historic building. I was born and raised in Waterbury and lived in a family house that was built by my great-grandfather in 1872. That house stayed in our family for 4 generations. When I was married, my wife and I purchased a Georgian colonial, very much like the subject house in Waterbury, and we have lived here now for more than 40 years. We have loved this home and will love the property at 325 or 326 Woodbury Road. Our offices have occupied a beautiful building in Waterbury that was constructed by the Chases during World War I. It's a 28-room mansion, 10,000 square feet. We have used that building faithfully all these years and respected it greatly. So the question as to whether or not we will respect this as a historic building is unquestioned. The second thing I'd like to say has to do with the list of uses, and you know, we've heard them, and some of the uses that are currently permitted have much greater impact on the neighborhood than our very low impact office use. And the question here now is, how do you manage the impact of uses? And right now, some of these uses, such as a daycare or a tennis facility or a swimming pool, public swimming pool, clubhouse and restaurant, all of which could be constructed at this property. And I would say this property would be very well used that way. But that impact on the neighborhood would be tremendous. Whereas we're, a daytime impact only, there'll be no outside activities from our business. We do all our work indoors. So I just think that from the point of view of how this commission and the town manages this area of town and manages the uses, adding this additional use will give a favorable impact on the neighborhood. And it will allow people to sell their properties to professional offices instead of having to rely upon some of these other much greater impact uses. And I would encourage the commission to vote in the positive and approve this request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a question. Your office is open 9 to 5, I would assume?
Well, some of us come to work a little earlier than 9 a.m. So it's generally open from about 8 a.m. in the morning till about 5:30 in the evening.
Right. And weekends, there is no operation at all, if any?
Well, I can't, there is operation there sometimes on the weekend. I go in to do my research. I go in to prepare for the files, but generally we don't have open office hours on the weekend. But the lawyers may go in to do work.
And there's minimal traffic in and out. And I believe you have the driveway on the side for entry, and you get right off of Route 6, and that's it. You do not drive up the road at all.
No, people will come to work and they'll park and go to work, and at the end of the day they'll leave.
That's it.
So there's very little in and out. I mean, we do have clients who come, but nowadays that's less and less. We're doing a lot of what we're doing tonight with our clients.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, Mr. Commissioner.
And any other questions? Okay. Is there anyone else out there, Lauren?
Yes, I'm allowing Jean King right now, and then there's 2 more.
Okay.
Good evening.
Ms. King, please state your name and your address.
Jean King, 126 North Street. I've been here before, and I am the chair of the Watertown Historic District Commission. And as we've talked about before, this property and this area is part of the Watertown Historic District. I think I want to reiterate what I'd said before, that this proposal is still simply an attempt to do what is called spot zoning. In other words, to take a property for a use that is not now approved in the R20 residential zone. And it is our belief, many people, that this will not necessarily have a positive effect on the residential area of the historic district there. There are other areas in the historic district where there is business and commercial work, but this is an area of residential, and the people who live there feel that their properties are best valued by continuing to be in a residential zone as opposed to being in a mixed zone. And there are a number of people along there, and you've seen there are beautiful homes along there. And in terms of this promoting economic development, no matter what, we're not building a new property here. So this property is already on the tax rolls. It'll continue to be on the tax rolls. We believe that I believe there are a number of places in town, wonderful other places where the business could be, and it would be great to have this law firm in town. I'm not saying we didn't. There really is no evidence, pro or con, that this will have a real impact on the economic development of the town. Because the property's there, the property's paying taxes, they're going to continue to pay taxes. None of this zone change was requested by any of the residents in town. The people who live in the neighborhood would like to see it continued as a residential area. And all of these other things that are potentially could be allowed under the current zoning, in fact, on most of these properties would really not be available. The properties are not the right size to be able to do it. So in a theoretical way, when you say you could have a swimming pool or a day camp, you really couldn't on any of those, on most of those other properties. The size is not there. So I would just urge you not to approve this, to let the property stay simply as residential along that beautiful area of town, and encourage people to have business and professional development in areas of town that are more appropriate for that. Thank you.
Before you leave, Mrs. King, Mark, could you answer the question about spot zoning? Is this spot zoning what we're doing here? Mark?
Yes, I hear you. Spot zoning typically involves the changing of one property, a property to a different zone. In this case, we're talking about uses. So I'm not clear that fits into the definition of spot zoning, but nonetheless, if you take the overall point of allowing uses to one particular property, that would be, I guess, the traditional definition. We noted that there are, seven properties that would fall into this category, but it was pointed out that at least. Well, I think it's even less than 7, but the majority of properties would really not be, in a practical sense, as Ms. King just pointed out, eligible for a change. They're either owned by the fire district, it's owned by Taft School. So there are, in essence, two properties that would benefit, so to speak, from this change of use.
Thank you, Mark. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do, through the chair.
Yes.
I know I'm putting the cart before the horse just a little bit, but as they were talking about parking and the hours and things like that, I just had one small question, and again, it's ahead. As people, attorneys, secretaries, customers, they go down Hamilton Lane and they take a left into this property to park. Is it part of the plan to buffer that whole back area so that the people that do have properties adjacent to this, will have some decent sized hedges, or whether it's aesthetic or sound breaking, whatever. And again, I know you haven't made any plans yet before the commission, but just a thought to kind of alleviate some of the issues back there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, am I still here? It's Jean King.
Yes, Ms. King.
Could I just say, this property, no matter what, moving forward, Mr. Marinero also is in the historic district. And anything that will be done to the property, whoever has it, and any of the properties in the district that can be seen from the street in any which way, people will also have to come to our commission and discuss with us and receive what is called a certificate of appropriateness. Because as I look at this, one of the things that concerns me most is the thought of a large parking lot there, which would not be appropriate for a residential. I'm trying not to think ahead either, because we don't have a proposal before us. But in fact, that is a major concern to me, because if there are a number, I have heard a figure of more than 20 people working there, 20 cars would be, and I don't know if that's true. So, I mean, but that's another thing that is to me a major issue in terms of the appearance in this residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. Is there anyone else out there that would like to speak?
Yeah, I have 2 more participants. So the first one I'm going to allow to speak is H. Thornton.
Sir,
so if you can unmute yourself.
I am unmuted. I'm Hugh Thornton.
Okay, state your name and address, please.
I'm Hugh Thornton. I live at 46 Litchfield Road in Watertown. I'd like to talk about the list of currently permitted uses and establish what the theme of those permitted uses are.
Yes.
Just to counter the fact that the attorney, Mr. McVeary, seemed to suggest that adding office space was an insignificant, just another name to the list of uses. I think that the current list of uses are all things like nonprofit institutions, things that have to do with educating the young, taking care of the old. They're all sort of community services. The things that are on that list, other than the infrastructure things such as utilities and electricity and putting in railroad lines and things like that, those things that are community oriented, they exist for the mutual benefit and the good of everyone in the community. If you're a family in a residential neighborhood, you want a camp for your kids to go to. If you're a family in a residential neighborhood, you might want to have your aging parents in a home in the neighborhood. So that in other words, those serve the very residential area they're in. On that list, there was one exception, and that was the permission for a bed and breakfast to be listed. And a bed and breakfast is a commercial enterprise, much the way a professional office is a commercial enterprise. They're transactional, they're competitive, they have to do with money. The thing about a bed and breakfast is that they try to make the house, the bed and breakfast, look just like the rest of the neighborhood. They try to make it feel like it's a home. In fact, a bed and breakfast has to really upgrade the outside of the house to make it feel like a home. So let me just cut this short. What I'm suggesting here is that the inclusion of professional office space on this list is really not in keeping with the theme of the list and with the precedents that are on that list. You're bringing in a very highly competitive business law, a profit-raising business, and you're trying to change what is an historically valuable neighborhood into a commercial district. Let's leave the commercial district on Main Street where we have new restaurants going up, where there's already some growth taking place. Let's leave professional offices to Main Street and leave the residential areas to themselves. I just wanted to address the current list and to say that adding office space was not part of that current list. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else, Lauren?
Yes, I'm going to promote Christina Atwood.
Please, Christina, state your name and address.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Christina Atwood. I live at 241 Woodbury Road. I've lived here for 14 years. I specifically moved here to be in the historic district, having lived in a historic home for 30 years in Newtown. I I don't see how making commercial properties part of the historic district is in the best interest of the economic development of Watertown. I agree with Jean King. I've talked to her. I've talked to other people who live on the street. Who benefits from putting a law office? And I'm happy that Tom Riley has lived in a historic property. If he lived in my house, would he want a law firm from somebody else down the street? I don't think so. We already have had to basically put up with having a zoning change for adult daycare 2 doors down from me. And now 3 doors down, I'm going to have a law office, which is going to have a paved over parking lot, not like it's currently there where you hardly even notice. There's usually 2 cars. We currently have another law firm in the center of town with a large, ugly parking lot with what, at least 20 cars every day? This just is not appropriate for a historic district in Watertown, and I'm totally against it. And as are many of my neighbors who I think were prevented from joining this meeting because it was turned to a Zoom only fairly recently. I went around to several of my neighbors and I provided agendas to let them know of the Zoom change to the zoning meeting. And in hopes that they would also join. But again, this is just not appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina.
I'm promoting, oops, sorry.
You have any others?
Yes, I'm promoting a Carusillo.
Okay. Carusello, would you please state your name and your address?
Gail Carusillo, 51 Hamilton Lane. I've talked at one of the meetings. I want to ask the board if they would like an office building in the back of in their backyard. Can you hear me?
We hear you. Go ahead.
I also want to address, which I addressed before, is the traffic. I would like every one of you to sit in my driveway and look at the traffic and the buses. The buses come in through Route 6. They park almost in front of that driveway. The driveway that is going to be the office is on Hamilton Lane. That home is a beautiful home, historic home that was on the tours. Let's leave it like that. Let's not be like the rest of the country and change our history. Thank you for hearing me.
Mrs. Carusello, you
Yes.
said there are school buses that line up on your street there?
Absolutely. They can't get into the school. All the school buses cannot get into the school parking lot at one time. So they will line up.
That whole street?
At different parts in the street. And so will the cars to get into the school when they're picking up.
What school is
that? Pardon me?
What school is there?
Judson is at the other end.
Right, it's at the end of the street, right.
It's at the end, but not all the buses could fit in to pick up kids. So they park and wait until there's room for the buses to go, and so do the parents. The street is a very busy street, and the buses cannot make the turn into the street. You have to almost, to get out of Hamilton Lane onto Route 6, you have to back up for the buses to make that corner. It is a traffic problem. We don't need one more car.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
You're all invited to sit in my driveway and watch.
Thank you. Is there anyone else out there, or do we have any more public?
We have 3 more so far, so I'm going to promote Catherine Camera.
Please state your name and address, Ms. Camera.
Catherine Camera, 31 Cottage Place in Oakville. I have a lot of interest in watching what happens with this application. It's been watching and reading your comments about wanting to hear from the residents. I'll be very interested when I heard spot zoning come up. That's come up at many other applications. Talking about putting businesses in the middle of residential. We've got the winery right now in the middle of residential with major issues about noise that keep coming up for those people. So I'm very interested to see how it is that this commission votes or decides on these changes, because I've seen very little attention being paid to residents at the Shaker property, which is now being turned into what the residents wanted to begin with, at the Sealy property, which I'm now involved in a lawsuit with you. So I'm very interested to see how it plays out, that you listen to some residents and you are acting like you're listening to these residents, and how this will play out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
George Norman.
Okay, George, you're on. Can you please state your name and address, George?
It's Patricia Norman at 271 Woodbury Road. We're right next door to the property. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Patricia.
Okay. And my information is from the Land Use Law and Practice, Volume 9. And what it states is spot zoning is clearly an illegal process. It must be determined that the proposed change is for the good of the community as a whole, not exclusively for the benefit of an individual or a select group, and consistent with the existing comprehensive plan and not to the detriment to the existing owners. No anticipated public benefit.
Just quickly go on to the planning and zoning.
A zoning map amendment is considered a spot zoning change.
Terrible. I'm like, and I guess
someone talking here.
You're interfering.
Can everybody mute themselves, please, if you're not speaking?
And
please, Mrs. Camara, could you turn off your mic, please? Mrs. Camara, your mic is on. We can hear everything you're saying.
Didn't even look like him.
Mrs. Camara.
So what you do is you go, oh, wait a minute. I think he's calling me.
Mrs. Camara, your mic is on. We're hearing everything you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Never mind.
Were you able to hear what I said about what the spot zoning is, what it's considered, and it's not supposed to be to the detriment of existing owners? Right. A zoning map amendment is considered a spot zoning change of zone affecting only a small area of change, which is out of harmony with the comprehensive plan. These are all, now I'll give you one other explanation as far as spot zoning. Under Connecticut law, Connecticut courts have defined spot zoning as the reclassification of a small area of land in such a manner as to disturb the tenor of the surrounding neighborhood. Spot zoning is impermissible in Connecticut when it has no public benefit. Spot zoning is still illegal in Connecticut. There's no gray area in what these people are asking for. It's spot zoning at its worst, because you're doing for one person, and that one person happens to be on the town council, which makes it even worse.
I'd please refrain from any criticism of individuals.
Okay, I will. But I don't think, just to say that as the taxpayers in this area, that we have to go hire legal counsel to protect our properties against something that the planning and zoning does not have the legal right to do. You do not have the legal right to do spot zoning when it's at no benefit to the community, or the only benefit is to one person, and it's a detriment to the other properties surrounding it. So we hate to have to go further with this, and as taxpayers costs money. Now in economic development, somebody said about more taxes. That property right now pays approximately $16,000 a year in taxes. That's enough. You don't need more on computers or whatever. We live next to a beautiful home with a beautiful lawn. I don't want to live next to a law office with a big, ugly, paved, the backyard is now a parking lot instead of a beautiful lawn. We have our investments in our properties up there. That's a beautiful property. You don't need law offices. We're not in the business district, and this is spot zoning at its very worst. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrice. Any other comments?
I'm promoting Robert Lubis.
Robert Lubis, please, you can speak and state your name and address.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name again is Robert Lubis. I reside at 569 Winding Brook Farm Road. So one of the comments was from one of the public indicating that no residents have requested the change. I live a mile away. I am, so that the commission is aware, one of the partners at Grady and Riley. And I've lived here for more than 20 years. I have both of my children have gone to the public school system. And one of the things that, just to respond directly, with regard to taxes and obligations, is that this property has a number of bedrooms that can be filled with children who would attend the public schools at a large cost. What we're suggesting is a relatively stable law office. We've been in existence since the early 70s, and the opportunity would be that we would not require any services of the town other than perhaps police or fire. So one of the things that that I think is useful to know by the commission is that the building we are in at the present is a historic building.
Who cares? We don't want you in the minute.
Well, that's nice, but let's address our comments to the chair. We have preserved that building for more than 45 years. It's been the same on the outside. The only differences that we propose, other than a parking lot, which exists to a large extent already on this property. There is a large parking area on this property, though it's not paved. The only changes we propose are interior. Now, I would point out, and I know this has been already said, the uses for this property can already include the following: a group daycare, a convalarium, a private hospital, a sanitarium, a nonprofit institution, a summer day camp, a private recreational facility, and a bed and breakfast. The one that I wanted to focus in on was a nonprofit institution, which in effect would be doing the very same thing we would. They would have offices in a location, typically, and try to operate offices out of a location. We're doing no different. We're an office, we operate within the building, we don't provide any noise to the area, and in fact, I actually would believe that this would enhance rather than detract from the general area. So the changes that would occur would actually result in a less intense use than many of the other things that this commission already has the power to permit. There would be less outdoor use, there would be less outdoor disturbance, and that disturbance would typically be limited to typical business hours, which is when we operate, typically between 8 and 5:30, rather than a bed and breakfast, which may have, for example, a wedding at 8 to 10 o'clock at night. We're not looking for any significant change in anything other than the ability to use this property in a way that will continue on with what we are hoping for. Now, having said that, I understand I've just said some specific things, but this use in the end is appropriate for this area. There is almost 10,000 cars passing every day on this road. I understand the concerns with regard to busing. those buses are going to exist regardless of whether this is a law office or a residence. And we don't add significant traffic in comparison to what Judson School has there. Now, just to answer one of the commissioner's other questions, with regard to the ability to have buffers, there already are substantial buffers. I've walked this property. There are substantial buffers in the back of the property and along the side, which would continue to exist. So there would not be any significant visibility to any of our activities for the property. Having said that, if the commission has any questions, I'm happy to answer what I can. If not, I appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Lubas. Any questions from the commissioners? Any questions?
Through the chair, I have a quick question.
Who is that?
Dan DeVito.
Yes, Dan.
Can we confirm how many parking spots they believe they'll need? How many employees are we looking at, plus daily clients?
Well, through the chair, I can answer the part of the question. We are planning for, at the moment, I believe 18 employees to be at the location. Typically, we would have a number of clients, but with COVID, to be candid with you, we typically have less than 10 a day appearing at our office over the course of the whole day. We do some work where people come in, but more often than not, there are very few additional individuals in the building beyond our staff. I do not know the number for sure of parking, but having said that, I'm sure it would be in excess of 20.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Any other questions?
Through the chair, I have another question, but for Mark Masao.
Sure.
Mark, what kind of ballpark size of driveway would this property need for this type of use?
Oh, that's a good question, Dan. I'm not sure that I could answer that. That would take some figuring with probably with the town engineer as well too, and part of a special permit or site plan to make that determination.
Okay, thank you. Any other public out there? What public?
I have George Norman would like to speak again.
We do not want second times. I want first time speakers.
Okay, so no other first time speakers.
Is there some new information, sir? Mr. Norman? So there are no
hold
others.
on 1 second.
Mr. Norman, is this new information? Mr. Norman? I see him on the screen, but he's not speaking.
He's muted. Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you, Mr. Norman. Is this new information?
Well, relatively to me, yes, it is. I mean, we basically are going over pretty much the same issues, the same problems.
I know, that's why. Is this something new?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
May
State your name and address.
George Norman, 271 Woodbury Road, Watertown, Connecticut, USA.
Thank you.
Okay. We are the abutting property owners to the property in question at 325 Woodbury Road. To answer the question for Mark Massad, who mentioned the amount of parking that may be required, or may not be required, usually it's 9 by 20 is the parking space times 20 spaces. You're looking at 180 times 20. Pretty large parking area, speaking of parking. We've been residing in this property for over 50 years. And in the 50 years that we've been there, we've done an extensive amount of improvements to the property and basically feel that the addition of putting a professional offices in a residential district will definitely diminish the value of our property and cause a lot of issues for us. They have, and I'm pleased to hear that the attorney mentioned that they would have somewhere between 18 and 20 parties there working. That's quite a lot of people. That's a lot more than some family with some children imposing on our school systems. We've been basically maintaining the property. That property has both a swimming pool, below ground pool. It has a large patio and deck, and it also has in back a large brook, which you can't build within 100 feet of that deck. When I look at the rest of the issues that we've gone through in the past, looking under section 11-4, basically the definition of a residential district, which is R20, it states that it's provided the area is established to provide suitable areas for medium density residential development consistent with the suburban environment. This is not a residential development. This is basically a office complex with an extensive amount of people. We basically believe that the other issue was the home occupancy, which is part of the regulations. It says that a home occupancy shall not impair the residential character. And this is what's happening here. We're taking a beautiful property and diminishing the value of the neighborhood at our expense. This is at our expense, nobody else. This is basically predicated on limiting the properties located along Route 6, a minimum area of 2 acres. They've just been cherry picking the best situations to find 2 acres out there. And I don't know how many properties that encompasses. 4 is what the original number was. It went from 24 to 4. But unfortunately, it doesn't make any difference to us since we're the abutter. I spent, I'm an ex-veteran. I've been in the service for our country. I came out of the service and I've never once have ever felt basically threatened by when I moved to Watertown 50 years ago. I lived there very comfortably in a residential district. I raised my family there. My kids went to school there locally. And now I feel basically with this growth, the way it's going, that I'm not comfortable. I've never pulled a permit for a weapon. I've never felt that I needed a weapon. I basically don't feel comfortable. I feel very uncomfortable with this thing. It's going to have 20 people working there. You're going to have people that come in there. They represent 62 different types of uses of law, 62 types. How many of those people are going to be there at any given time? It's going to be a large amount of people wandering around in there. And these are all types of people, good, bad, and indifferent. It's very, very unpleasant for us, and it puts us at risk, financially and otherwise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Also, thank you for your service. Very much proud to have you speaking tonight. Is there anyone else out there that we have to hear tonight?
There is no other speakers.
No other speakers. Thank you. I'm going to go now back to the applicant. Applicant, do you have anything that you would like to add? This is the last round here. Michael?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, Mike.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Initially, as far as Mr. Norman, I'm not quite sure why he would feel threatened by clients coming to my client's office. The type of work that the Grady and Riley firm does would not present any kind of threat to the general public in any way, shape, or form. If Mr. Norman feels that way, I deeply apologize to him for that. His wife talked about spot zoning. we can define spot zoning, and Mark could tell you she read the definition out of the Connecticut practice book. But if we look at what we have here, I'm looking at approximately 15 acres that our proposal would apply to, which would be much more than a specific spot zoning area. So I don't think spot zoning becomes an issue in this whole matter here. Mrs. King talks about the fact that this has to go to the historic district, of which she probably claims that she's the chair of. She's speaking against it. So I would assume when this comes to, if it comes to the historic commission, that she would have to recuse herself from participation in that. She should be listening as a chairman of the district with an open mind. It appears she's already got her mind made up that this is something that shouldn't happen. One gentleman spoke about the uses that are allowed already, and they're mostly community service type of thing. Attorney Lubis mentioned the hospital, the private hospital, the daycare center. Certainly none of those would be so much more intrusive than what's being proposed here. And again, go back to what we addressed back in December, and Mr. DeVito asked a question about number parking. We're not here to address the 325 Woodbury Road property. That will come, should this commission see fit to grant the text change after that. This is not a site-specific application. This is an application for the R20 zone for the properties that meet the criteria that we have presented. If the commission sees fit to grant this application, we do have to return with a site plan special permit application that would address the specifics that you're requesting to get to make a determination based on the parking that would be allowed in the district on this property. Isn't what we're here for tonight. We're here to address whether the text should be changed to allow the use, to allow a subsequent application back to you folks to address it and to deal with the parking, to deal with everything else on site. But what we're here for tonight is simply to get to that next step to be able to come back with an application.
Thank you. Any questions to the applicant? Any questions to the applicant? Just one more question. I have, again, a question. You believe that this application is in conformity with the plan of conservation and development. Therefore, it is meeting the criteria that is set in that plan that was required by the state of Connecticut according to general statute. So you are saying this is in conformity with the plan of conservation and development. Is that correct?
Am I still on, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you are.
Yes, if you look at the initial application that was submitted, we cited several sections of the plan of conservation and development that we feel this conforms to, and I believe we comply with your requirements.
Thank you. One other question to a member of the commission, Commissioner Demers. Commissioner Demers, I have a question. The property, I think, currently is valued at somewhere in the nature of $1.2 million, which means, and I believe somebody mentioned that it brings in $16,000 a year in tax revenue. If an agency like what happened with this senior housing, where we could not stop it because under federal and state law, they had to put that housing in there. We tried as a commission, we voted against it. If this property is sold at $1.2 million, does it devaluate or does it increase property values in the area? Because property values are very important to the residents. Could you answer that question, sir?
I could, Rich. That's a very difficult question to answer. Could you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll share a few things with you that the commission members probably need to know. I did a little research, and there's been in the last 5 years along Woodbury Road There's been 14 sales, and all my information's coming strictly from the MLS. And if you took the 14 sales and you wanted to figure out what the average sales price of a house along that corridor from Route 63 and 6 to where this subject property is, you're looking at an average of under 300,000. 298 to be exact. So the subject property, 325 Woodbury Road, it's been on the market for 895 days. Clearly, there isn't a family out there that's interested in buying it and swimming in the pool. So in Watertown, the past 3 years, the average days on market have been around 30 days. This has been on for almost 900 days. So in my opinion, there's like 92% of any buyer goes to the internet before they call a real estate agent. And the most popular site is Zillow. And what Zillow does is they do what's called a Zestimate. So they have an estimate of what properties are worth. So the more expensive homes sell in your neighborhood, your Zestimate goes up. The less expensive the house sells, your property values go down. In Watertown, we haven't had in the MLS a property sell for over $1 million as far back as I can go in the MLS. We did get close. We had 2 in the past 10 years. We've had 22 properties sell over 600,000. 2 of them around 939,000 and 925,000. The bulk of them have sold in the 6s and 7s. So when this property gets sold, if it gets sold, I have no idea what it's selling for, but if it gets recorded anywhere's over $1 million, everybody in that neighborhood's values to the public buyer who goes to Zillow, 92% of buyers, that estimate's going to go up. Everybody's estimate's going to go up. So in my opinion, no, it does not hurt the property values.
Thank you. That is, I think, needed
You're
information.
welcome. You're welcome.
The other question I have as far as Commissioner Mark Mossad, I want to make it very clear. In your opinion, is this spot zoning? Very clear.
The definition appears to take into consideration the changing of a zone for use, as was pointed out, contrary to the goodwill of the neighborhood. This is a change of use that applies to several properties. So I would say no.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members of the commission? Okay.
I have a few comments, Rich. Is that okay? Or are we waiting on that?
No, I'm waiting. You have a comment from the commissioner? Who's speaking?
DeVito.
Okay, Dan, go ahead.
Sorry, just 2 points. One is as the applicants pointed out, that as we're looking at this, the thought process shouldn't be, will the applicants be a good fit? Because when we change the zone, we don't change it for them, we change it for eternity, essentially. So we need to be thoughtful in the mindset that it doesn't just affect this one property, it affects several properties. And although these applicants seem like great people, that doesn't necessarily mean that these people will even buy the property, or that these will be the only ones that want to move in here and do something different. So we have to think long-term. And the other point I want to make is, in my head, I'm questioning, why do we want to do this? We have a thriving neighborhood. It's very stately, it's historic. It's one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in town. And it's what Watertown's known for. So yes, we have one home that isn't selling. And that could be a price adjustment. And yeah, that's not favorable to that one homeowner, but we have to think about what's best for town. So does it make sense to go and change a zone to help out one homeowner and while we hurt others? Or do we leave things as is? If this was a neighborhood that needed help and needed change to make it thrive, I would be all for it. But we have a neighborhood that is an outstanding neighborhood, and we're going to go potentially make some changes that could really impact it in what I would say is a negative way, potentially. That's it.
But immediately you do not see any harm. You say potentially, and I did cite to you the plan of conservation and development, which again is a long-term plan, and it is something that we should be guided by, not just by hearsay or other issues out there. Well, that's why I think it is very important that we look at things as they are. And I agree with you on some points, Commissioner, but I think we are now just looking at one simple point. Any other comments?
Can I make a comment? Yeah. Commissioner Ray Antonacci, may I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Commissioner DeVito on this matter. I've already expressed this concern. I feel that the chairman in this instance, it is not personal, but I don't feel it's the duty of the chairman of the commission to be promoting any particular application.
I am not promoting it.
I think
you are wrong. If anybody's promoting anything, Attorney Antonizzi, let us move very cautiously here.
I'm moving cautiously. I think that the neighbors deserve to be heard on this matter.
We heard them, Commissioner. We've been listening.
Are you cutting me off? Did I get a chance to speak? Will you stop interrupting me for a moment?
Go ahead.
Okay, so in all fairness, I believe the neighbors do have a concern. Okay, and I think that it's not quite, the elephant in the room is still the large parking lot and more people and the use that changes here. And I know that Attorney McVeary has said we're only considering a zone change here and the site plan will come later. But the fact is we are going to be dealing with that. And these neighbors who live next to this and have lived here for many, many years are going to have to deal with a commercial building in their midst, okay? And I think that, we have to give consideration to neighbors. Most of the time I'm in favor of things, but this neighborhood is unique. And I think we owe it to this neighborhood. And I apologize if I offended you, Mr. Chairman, but that's the way I view it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Through the chair, I have a couple comments too.
Go ahead.
Could I speak, Rich?
Commissioner Demers.
So I'm driving up and down Route 6 and I'm thinking to myself, it's a pretty big parking lot right on the corner of Middlebury Road and Route 6. I believe it's a sizable daycare that probably fits somewhere in the ballpark of, I don't know, 60, 70 cars, I would guess. It's been, 20 something years since my daughter went there. So the parking lot, my point is that parking lot's not bothering anybody, and there's 50 or 60 spots. And I believe it's in the historic district. And I believe there's a lot more traffic going in and out of there every day than there will be for this law office. A lot of parking at Taft too, by the way, and a lot of commercial vehicles pulling in and out of there, delivering food and supplies and whatnot. I don't hear anybody complaining about that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments? Last comment from the public. Comment.
I'm sorry, I have two more new from the public.
Last ones, yes. Are they repeats?
No, they're new.
Okay.
I'm promoting Peggy Sheehan.
Peggy Sheehan, please speak. State your name and address.
Hold on, wait, start. Okay, now go.
Peggy Sheehan.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Joe Sheehan. I'm Peg's husband, and I live at 259 Woodbury Road. I've been here for 47 years. One of the things for the whole time I've been here, I wanted the house to look exactly the way it was when I moved in 47 years ago, when I moved out. I wanted the neighborhood, a historical neighborhood, because it was good for the town. There hasn't been a commercial property here in over 160 years. The people take great pride up here in leaving their homes in better condition than them when they moved in. And I can see by your demeanor that some of you are ignoring what I'm saying, but there's an emotional impact here. We don't want a commercial property in our midst. Or what you're going to do is you're going to take an area of town and you're going to diminish it, because this will open the door for other changes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have one more, Lauren?
Yes, Karen.
Karen, please state your name and address.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It's Karen Rogopoulos, 47 Woodbury Road. I live right by the corner of Middlebury Road and Route 6 or Woodbury Road. That parking lot used to be the Taft Annex. It is owned by Taft. It did cause a commotion when it was put in for the neighbors. They had to adjust their lighting. They had to plant more greenery around because of the use was being disruptive to the neighborhood. However, it is a daycare for Taft teachers and their children. And there's also an apartment, a residential apartment in that building. So that should clear up that issue. The bed and breakfast, I was led to believe years ago when someone tried to convert the old Merriman Mansion into a B&B, that to have a B&B, you had to have an owner live there. So that is a total change from you assuming that it's vacant all the time, except when there's people staying, and that you can have weddings. Well, you can't just have weddings at a B&B. You have to have special permits when you are filing to have the B&B. So no, there wouldn't be wild parties and weddings every weekend. So, and someone would have to be living there that is an owner, keeping it residential. On the other hand, also, and I respect Ken extremely, quite a bit. However, I would have to disagree because as we know from being in the same business, CMAs or marketing analysis are very subjective. And you can go around within the past several months, and I don't have the papers here in front of me that I brought to the meeting, but there have been large home sales. Recently, young couples buying homes in this neighborhood, in this area, all young couples doing amazing work, and we're all happy to see it. And yes, it would diminish the values of commercial property in the middle of residential. And we know that. The fact that they would still be paying and that supposedly the price of $1 million from this business, it's going to come up as a commercial building in a residential neighborhood. And as I said, I think it was Mr. Thornton, people don't mind if it's something that contributes to the neighborhood, as far as you don't mind that there's a convalarium down the road that nobody can see because it's set way back, that takes care of old people. But it's been there for a long time before any of these zoning issues were updated or changed. But this is a neighborhood that takes pride in being a historic neighborhood. And the bottom line for all of you should be, is this what's best for the neighbors, that people that live there, and is what they want? And I understand that the attorney, the partner or attorney from the Grady and Riley lives in Watertown and loves in Watertown, but having a few kids living in that house isn't going to affect anyone's taxes any more than it already does. Many of us have paid taxes to the town and never had children go to the public schools or were sent to private schools by their parents and still paid their taxes. So that is really a non-comment. I hope that you take into consideration the wants of the people who already live here and understand we have a business district along Main Street and there are other buildings available. And I just think to affect a historic neighborhood where the people have taken great pride, and in many cases, a lot of us work more than one job to keep our homes, that you are going to have, and this will be a negative impact. And I respect the firm of Grady and Riley, but they do not belong in our neighborhood. Let them go to Main Street, or let them go to the Munson House, or let them go somewhere else where business is conducted. I mean, and I forget who mentioned it, but the current attorney on Main Street, what he did to his historic home is appalling. And yes, that's parking. That the fact that that was allowed really does change the character of that corner of town. And I think you need to take the people who are already living here and already paying taxes, their opinions into consideration. And I don't think the neighbors are asking for anything out of line. You know, it's just, you just can't be doing that. You just can't be changing neighborhoods because somebody, you know, and it's just not right. And I'm sorry. And I know I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's really an emotional situation for what you're doing to our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. Have a good night. All right. There are none others, Lauren?
So I have one more. Are you accepting second?
No, we've gone through it once, I think is enough.
Okay. Then no.
Okay, let us move forward. Now the matter that is before us is either to close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Item number 1 underneath continuing public hearings. I believe it would be in order. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Close them. All right.
Who made that motion?
Marinero.
Marinero. Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on. The next item on the agenda is another public hearing, and we'll have to have a continuing of this public hearing. It is dealing with Taft School. They want to install, if you read what it says there, 4 70-foot sport lights poles in the Snyder Field. Right now, currently, we have a 30-foot height. They are putting in an application for 4 70-foot light poles over at Taft School. We will have to have a table on this matter because the ZBA wants to do a site walk and the snow is in the way. Do I have a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table item 2, public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I second, Commissioner Duva.
Good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion is carried unanimously. Okay, old business. A 2-lot subdivision for Michael Jed and Properties 2-lot subdivision, a lot on Sandbank Road, map number 163, block 21, I believe, lot 8, block 21, lot 8. I believe, Paul, our engineer, you have something to say on this? Paul Bonovich, town engineer. You're on, Paul.
The applicant has satisfied the wetland issues that we had. The only thing left is the.
Paul, you have to get a little closer to the mic.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Where they turn? Can you hear me?
A little clearer, louder.
Okay. The only issue from an engineering standpoint is the use of that previous proposed right-of-way for future road off Concord Drive as a 2-lot driveway, common driveway, which requires a 3/4 vote or 6-member vote by your commission. There's some wording, legal wording that has to be filed also, but the town attorney is required to review that along with our office. That still has to be done, but I don't see a real issue with that. Other than, like I said, the commission needs to vote to override the prohibition of a common driveway in a residential subdivision.
Mark, do you have any comment? Mark,
Mr. Chairman, I've provided you with a resolution. The town engineer and I have reviewed the application. It meets, with the exception of Paul's comment, that meets all applicable subdivision regulations. We've provided some conditions of approval. If you're inclined to approve, I would ask you for, and we have, it looks, we have the requisite 6 members present. Two votes, one to approve the request for subdivision, and second to vote on the waiver to the common driveway to allow more than one driveway on a common driveway. Sorry.
So Mark, I'm going to move then down to the issue underneath articles for action, and we will act on this subdivision for Michael Judd, and we will take 2 votes, if I am correct. And this is for the 2-lot subdivision, Lot 8, Sandbank Road, and it's map number 163, Block 21, Lot 8. So their first vote will be to approve.
Correct.
Am I correct?
That is correct.
So members, how do you vote? Are you in favor of the approval of this project? I'll take a motion to approve. Do I have a motion? Someone must make a motion. Hello?
Motion to approve, Marinero.
Thank you, Bob. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Now the second vote, we must have 3/4, which means 6 members, in order to waive the move as far as the driveways. So we will have to go by individual votes in order to get 6. Do I have a motion to waive the motion for approval of the extended driveway? How would you word that, Mark?
It'd be a waiver of the requirement that only one driveway is served by a common access way.
Okay, that's the motion. Do I have somebody to make that motion? Say aye, please.
So moved.
Who was that?
So moved. Demers.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, DeVito.
Okay. Now we got to count. Antonetti, yes. That's
Antonetti,
1.
yes.
2.
Yes.
Marinero, yes.
3.
DeVito, yes.
4.
Duva, yes.
5.
Mears, yes.
6. Okay. All those in favor have voted yes. Motion is carried unanimously. Got your 6 votes. That is done. Okay, let's move on. Also underneath old business, we have Echo Assess LLC, Echo
Asset, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon me?
Echo Asset.
Assets, right. And that's a site plan application to develop industrial building consisting of 4,800 square feet of office space, 8,000 square feet of shop area with associated with parking, employees, and also vehicles. Map number 104, block 90 L23A. Could you explain what that's all about, Mark?
Mr. Chairman, this is a site that was formerly approved for a, from what I understand, an alternative energy power plant that was never built. A new company, Connecticut Seal Coat, has purchased the property and wishes to relocate to that property with a building that will serve as their headquarters, serve as their base of operations. It's currently under review by the Inland Wetlands Agency, and therefore the commission cannot make any decisions until they have made theirs.
So we should table.
So you should table this application.
I need therefore a motion to table, please.
Through the chair, Rich, I just had one quick question for Mark.
Sure.
Where is this property located, Mark?
It's on the lower portion of Echo Lake Road. It's on the north side as you're heading toward Route 8. It's known as the, it was formerly owned by I guess it would have been CL&P at the time. I don't know that I can pinpoint it better than that right at this point.
Is it down by Cura's?
Going toward Park.
It's across the street from Cura.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, it's on the opposite side of the street from Cura. Not necessarily across the street. Across the street is a property known as Watertown Brownfields.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so we'll motion to table. Am I correct? Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Do I have a second?
I second, Commissioner Duva.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Motion is carried unanimously. Okay. On the underneath articles on the agenda ready for possible action. Number 1, a proposed text amendment to the Watertown zoning regulations from Attorney Michael McVeary to allow professional office use by a site plan special permit with within the R20 zone district, limited to properties fronting on Connecticut Route 6. And it is those properties on Connecticut Route 6. Do I have a motion to approve? Demirs? I thought I saw your hand go up.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm listening, Rich. So we have in our possession, I think everybody has in our possession a draft motion, right? I was just reading through the rest of it. So give me 1 minute to finish page 2.
You have a resolution. I believe all members have that resolution.
I make a resolution to approve this that's as written so that we can vote on this tonight, Marinero.
Motion has been made. And Bob Marinero, did you second it?
I made it.
Oh, Bob Marinero made it.
I'll second it.
And a motion has been made and seconded. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
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 Let's do a head count.
Yeah.
Would you please read the roll? Who's there? Roseanne?
Yes, I will.
And if you're in favor, say yes. If you're opposed, say no.
Raymond Antonacci,
No.
Richard Antonetti,
Yes.
Ken Demers,
Yes.
Dan DeVito,
No.
Dan Gelati's not here, Lou Esposito's not here, Bob Marinero,
Yes.
Dave Pope is not here, Lou's not here, Joe Duva.
No.
Thank you.
What's the count?
3-3 tied.
Yes, 3 tied.
Which means the motion fails.
Okay, move on.
Got one item left.
We have one item left. Let's see.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm looking at what we have here.
Item 2 on articles of agenda. I think we already took care of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you've already taken care of
Already taken care of. So we're on item 3, which we've already tabled.
Yep. So,
and you've tabled item 4 as well.
Yeah.
Correct.
So informal,
Like an early night.
Informal discussion. None. Next meeting will be March 2nd, 2022. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right. Good night.
Guys.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.